Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Saturday, March 18th, around 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 2023. At least 4 people dead after magnitude 6.8 earthquake shakes cities in Ecuador. More on the story. But the big story in the U.S., 6+ inches of snow reported at Big Bend National Park. And that is in Texas, the nexus of the schmexus. Keep calm. It's boom time, snow style. Big Bend National Park, typically busy with hikers during spring break, but on Saturday morning, it was filled with snow. In an Instagram post, the park said that at least 6 inches of snow had fallen at the Panther Junction Visitor Center. Ho, ho, ho. Yes, it's snow. And Southern California mountain communities are still clearing snow from a rare blizzard, and others have been trapped for weeks. And more snow is in the forecast for the Sierras. Forecasters are also warning of heavy snow and high avalanche danger up in Alaska, especially across eastern Kenai Peninsula, including the Turnagain Pass. Heavy snow and high winds are making large avalanches highly likely in the mountains south of Anchorage, according to authorities. So take heed if you're heading out. Heavy snow across the Kenai Peninsula. Feet is expected north of Moose Pass and 5 to 10 inches south of the pass. So heads up if you're in Alaska. Now, hail has been pummeling the U.S. It has been exceptional. Take a look at this. 160,000 hail reports on the 16th. 304 of those above 1.75 inches. Those cars are getting pummeled, and there was hail of all sizes all the way up to tennis balls.
Of the storm in a remarkable way. This one is from Sylvia. This evening's storm was all about hail in her Tanglewood neighborhood in Fort Worth. She lined up the hailstones there, smallest to largest, to show you dime-sized hail to a chunk about as big as a tennis ball. We really appreciate receiving your first-hand reports here at DFW.
So, a lot of hail in the region, and more is coming. There is a brief reprieve on the West Coast, but by Tuesday, another atmospheric river is lining up to bring 4 to 6 more feet of snow before the end of March.
Into California as we get another atmospheric river that sets up. Now, the time frame we're looking at is going to be Monday, but especially Tuesday and the Wednesday. And I really think this storm, while we're going to get some rain in San Francisco and Redding, I think this storm is going to target maybe Monterey on south, right? And into Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles, you're going to get a couple more inches of rain at least. Snowfall is going to be heaviest in the southern Sierra around Mammoth Mountain, where we can get another couple feet of snow. But the ground is saturated, so we're going to get flooding. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is, boy, I tell you what, here's the new drought monitor. Look at the area that not only doesn't have any severe, extreme, or exceptional drought from where we were in October. I mean, it's wet. It's wet. When you start getting into the white, that means you don't have any drought. And we're going to continue to get more and more white in the next week. And by the way, wait till you see what happens to the reservoirs when all of the snow melts in the Sierra. I'm really concerned that we're going to be dealing with flooding in many of the rivers here in California.
I think he's right about the flooding, but take a look at the difference in just 6 months. The entire area of extreme and exceptional drought is gone. And in fact, over 50% of the state not in any type of drought whatsoever. Now, that is not being reported on the mainstream. This is against the narrative. But as we can see, Lake Mead began to rise early. And this is Lake Powell rising early as well. Lake Powell usually doesn't begin to rise until about April or early May, and it began rising a week ago. Lake Mead has also taken a second turn up. Usually when it's dropping precipitously, we're going to get a huge bump up in Lake Mead. It might surpass the 2021 or 2022 level. So that's good news. And let's take a look at the snowfall as we move it through. Here is the rest of the weekend. Saturday, you can see that snow falling in Mexico and South Bend, down in Texas, continuing in Texas, the nexus of the Schmexes, snow in New Mexico as well. And we've got some lake effect snow up here in the Northeast, nothing significant. And that second system is going to move in here Monday into Tuesday. And Tuesday is their lose day in the Sierras, as well as the Four Corners and the West. Here, by the end of the week, most of the West is going to be picking up snow in high elevations as another system moves through the northern plains here, actually two of them. First one in the northern plains is Wednesday, and then the second one on Thursday. And the snow is continuing to fall through April. Heavy snow in the Four Corners region and the Sierras. This winter pattern is not ending anytime soon. Shut up, Al! He's not feeling it. Deadly avalanches in Europe. Cold Februaries for Dominica and Barbados. And the Brits are in the cold and dark due to soaring energy prices as the story unfolds before your very lives. Now, at least 4 people dead after a magnitude 6.8 earthquake shook cities in Ecuador. And the death toll may have risen. The earthquake struck near the southern town of Baleo and was more than 65 kilometers deep, which is good news. Had this been any closer to the surface, and the death toll would have been much higher. There's the quake there, still coming in at 6.8. Originally showed at 6.9 over here at the Tsunami Warning Center. You could see that original magnitude. And this showing at a depth of 47 miles. So there is no tsunami watch, which is good news. And overall seismicity on the earth is low. So we do have a deadly earthquake, 4 dead. And our prayers go out to those affected. Worldwide volcano news update. Not much happening on the volcano front. Fuego, Ibico, Popo, Reventador, Sabancaya, Swanosima, Karangitang is getting a little bit more active here, as we can see some of that activity here puffing to 6,000 feet. Now, let's take a look at space weather. We have a moderate sunspot turning in to face us, but the sun has been relatively quiet. This flare happened from this sunspot system around the limb, so it wasn't Earth-facing. There was a very weak CME that came off earlier today, impulsive, but that's quite a large sunspot group. And the next week is going to have that turn in to face Earth. We also have a large coronal hole that will be facing Earth in a few days, and that could be geo-effective in about 5 days. So that could be raising the plasma speed as well. But currently, the 3-day geomagnetic forecast is calm through March 20th. That a little impulsive flare there. Boom. Oh, that's actually a filament eruption. That may be affecting us as well. But overall, nothing severe happening as far as space weather. The sun is mostly blank except for a new sunspot group that's turning around. And all is quiet on the sun at Solar Max. Now, I'm sure you've heard a U.S. nuclear plant manager admitted to a radioactive leak that happened months ago, back in November 22nd of last year. Around 400,000 gallons of tritiated water leaked from a broken pipe at the facility and has contaminated the ground.
Radioactive leak at a nuclear power plant right here in Minnesota.
Xcel Energy says it happened at its plant in Monticello last November. Now, contaminated water is slowly creeping toward the Mississippi River. WCCO's Alan Henry spoke with agencies about how they plan to stop it and why it took months for the public to find out.
Jeff Rowan lives about a half a mile from Xcel Energy's nuclear power plant in Monticello. He had no idea that 4 months ago, 400,000 gallons of radioactive water leaked in the facility.
Yeah, that concerns me. That somebody wouldn't have told us, especially the city should have let us know. Somebody should have let us know.
Both Xcel and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency released statements about the leak Thursday afternoon, making it public knowledge for the first time. They say on November 22nd, they discovered a pipe leaking the radioactive water and began working to fix it. Almost 4 months now. Why are people just now hearing about this?
If at any point there had been a concern for the public safety, we would, of course, immediately provided much more information. But we also wanted to make sure we fully understood what was going on before we started raising any concerns with the public around us.
Both Xcel and the Minnesota Department of Health say at this point, there's no risk to the public.
The plant is located about...
Yeah, no risk to the public. And this is after they announced it 4 months after the leak began. Now, to get even more ludicrous, if you continue to watch this video, the head of Xcel there is going to say because of the spring runoff, the water rising is actually pushing the contaminated plume back towards the power plant. Just absolutely insane. 500,000 gallons of radioactive water leak from Minnesota. They try to cover it up, and it gets exposed. That sounds very similar to something that just happened now, doesn't it? Now, talking about leaks, 50 years ago, researchers discovered a leak in Earth's oceans. Can you believe that? This is an interesting read, an excerpt from the March 10th, 1973 issue of Science News, and it's suggesting that a lot of the water may be gradually leaking into the mantle. And we've recently learned about volumes of water contained in the earth. In fact, oceans worth. There's more water in the mantle than in the oceans. Holy macaroni. And another shocker, NASA finds water near the south pole of the moon. Who knew? Now you do. According to Sophia, they pieced together the first detailed wide area map of water distribution. And well, there's water near the south pole of the moon. There's also water on Mars. And now we know there's volcanoes on Venus. Scientists have long thought that Venus was a dying planet, but new findings show there's still geologic activity happening on Earth's closest planetary neighbor, albeit a hot one. So all the links to all the articles we talk about will be below the video. Now, witness Earth's living skin in a 100 million year old model of continental creep, or continental drift, some like to call it. Others call it the plate tectonic model. And so researchers have, reverse engineered the Earth to show what the last 100 million years may have looked like. The only problem is this model assumes that Earth has maintained the same diameter for its entire longevity. But maybe that's not so true. If you look at an isochron map of the oceans and you were to reverse them, it would appear as if Earth might have been, much, much smaller. Now, this helps explain the paradigm of the dinosaur and many other things that plate tectonics does not explain. So join us after the video on Magnetic Reversal News for a wonderful expose on the expanding Earth hypothesis, plate tectonics versus expansion tectonics, facts versus fiction, where Leah and I will dissect the models, and you decide. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. I hope you got something out of the video. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this with like-minded people as we are shadow banned and hidden from unsubscribed viewers. You could also become a Patreon and support the work we do. We love you. Be safe.